Welcome to the Body Emotion Podcast, Pain, Posture and Emotions. Today, in this episode, we're gonna be speaking, let's talk about anger. Hello, my name is David El Corobarrutia, and today we are in defense of anger. Because in general, this emotion has quite a lot of social and personal negative connotations. Probably socially it's been more noticeable, but even personally it's gonna depend a little bit on you, on your beliefs, on the education that you have about emotions and your emotional intelligence. But what we need to understand is that in many occasions, in many situations, what this emotion is telling us is that we have to change. And anger is a positive emotion, or rather than a positive emotion, it has its own functionality. Its use is something that we need to utilize and to use. It's positive if we see in that way. Anger often comes from frustration, because there are things in life that we want and that we cannot change or we cannot achieve. Or sometimes it's because justice has not been served, or because there are people who we do not think they have behaved well with us. The source of anger, it can be, and it can come from many different factors and situations. In fact, pay attention on this because this is quite important. In the field of clinical psychology, it has been said that depression is sometimes repressed anger, some anger that is not being expressed. The famous psychoanalyst Freud used to say quite a lot of that, and he did quite a lot of research or deep thinking about this. And this is what we talk a lot in Body Emotion about, repressed anger, because it's really important to express it. Otherwise, what is happening very, very often is that if we don't express the rights, we don't express the anger in a positive and meaningful and functional way of doing it, little by little we repress it, and then we end up angry with ourselves, and then you start taking your self-esteem away, and then you start self-destructing yourself with thoughts, with your inner dialogue, with different words that you say to yourself, and at the end with behaviors. And then you start behaving in ways that they don't help you at all. And you don't do it with kindness, with compassion, with respect, with love for you. So anger is important. It's really important that you allow yourself to feel angry and to express the anger, because anger is designed to generate an adaptive change. It's like something that is knocking on the table and saying, that's enough, it's over, enough, I gotta change. Anger is a message. It is such a transformative force. Many ideas, many projects and many actions, they have been promoted and they flourished by a state of mind of anger. And that's important. What's the trick? What's the key? That it needs to be driven, it needs to be expressed in a very adaptive way. In other words, think about this. Anger has two different phases. The manifestation, the expression of anger, that is not very productive. It is somehow, because the fact of expressing the anger is good because you are not repressing it, as long as you do it in a functional way and with certain control. But after you feel angry and you have expressed the anger, if you don't do anything else, it's useless. So that's the second part and the second key. You need to use that energy, because emotions are energy, towards something better. You need to transform that emotion into action. Action to achieve something better, to transform something. This emotional response to a sense of threat, it's something that has been there for many thousands of years. But what's happening? What's going on? What is happening is that when we feel a threat, we respond with famous fight or flight response. I killed you, or I run away. Simple like that. At a chemical and physiological level, a series of changes take place in the body. Adrenaline, your muscles are tight, there is more blood sugar, the respiration rate increases, and other neurochemicals are also produced. And this is interesting because those neurochemicals, this is something that I've been learning for a while, and is that some of these neurochemicals, they share the opioid-like chemical pathways. So the more angry you are, the more you want to be angry in the short and the long term. It's like that it increases the hypersensitivity. So then, little by little, you need a less stimulus to be angry. So then, little by little, any single thing is gonna make you be angry. And that's not good. That's not good at all, because you cannot function like that. On the other hand, adaptive anger is very healthy, it's very useful. For example, establishing techniques to be adaptive could be to express your feelings and what you have to say to the other people in a polite and respectful and assertive way. Because if you keep it to yourself inside, it's like the snowball. It gets bigger and it gets bigger, and then it's harder to express the anger, and it gets bigger, and then you might explode. And that's not good. That's not very intelligent, because you can be in trouble and you can be dominated by this difficult force, which is anger as emotion. One of the problems is that when anger is chronic or is not leading us into what we need to say or what it needs to be said, that's a problem. Because on many occasions when you are angry with someone, it is because you have to say something. You have to do it without attacking that person in front of you, and without, allowing the someone is taking advantage of you in a bad and negative way. Sometimes if you are angry with someone, it's because you have to say something to that person. Not always, but most of the times, yes, and especially with those closest from you. However, anger, sometimes it might be covering up other emotions such as fear and sadness. That's important. Sometimes under the table, there is another emotion that is not anger. For example, you get angry with your children because you are afraid that something will happen to them. Classic. Or you get angry because you feel sorry, or you feel sad, more than sorry, you feel sad, but you don't want to express the sadness, the emotional pain. The first thing to manage this is to listen to ourselves, to know if there is an underlying emotion or not. And this is something that is hard and tricky nowadays, because in society we rush in constantly. We don't spend time with ourselves in silence, in stillness, to listen our inner wisdom and to try to identify what we're feeling, if we're representing emotions or not. And that requires time, that requires deep thinking, that requires, time for you. Because if not, what it could happen is that at the end, you are not going to identify what's the source of the problem. So then you cannot fix it. Or you can just fix it, but partially. But what you need to understand is that if you are not hiding any emotions, that they are underlying emotions, most of the times you really know why you are angry. Listen, when we are angry, annoyed, the chances are that you really do know why you are getting angry. And something very common that happens is the following thing. You get angry, you express your anger maybe in a good way or not, but let's say you get angry, then you blame yourself because anger has a bad reputation. In fact, it might happen that they even blame you for getting angry. And that can lead you to frustration if you don't allow yourself to get angry, to feel it and express it. And it can lead you into repressing emotion the next time because, it's like you are not getting even a reward. You're getting a punishment for being angry. So then, why am I going to be angry next time? Why am I going to allow myself to be angry next time? Not at all. I'm getting a punishment. That's not what you want. It's also true that you have to describe sometimes the facts and argue if it really makes sense to be angry, observe the situation objectively, like an alien. You come from a different world and you observe the situation objectively, trying to leave your ego sideways in another place. But that's hard, very hard sometimes. What you have to keep in mind is that anger cannot be static. It has to be transformed into something different. But this is like any other emotion. I mean, if you're listening to this episode now, go to the body motion picture and you're gonna see that surrounding the word emotion, you have little circles with different colors that they change in color and in intensity. That's representing exactly this, that the emotions, they are dynamic, they change, they need to be transformed. For example, joy cannot be something static, just like sadness. It's not good being really happy and cheerful and full of joy if you're having bad circumstances, if you really had a drama in your life recently or something really bad happened. It's incongruent that you are like happy because your emotions are not gonna be like, so this really bad event happened recently, and now I'm feeling happy. No, there's something inside of you that is gonna tell you, no. You gotta feel it. But it's exactly the same with depression. So being constantly depressed is not good. It's not functional. You might feel sad at some point during the day. You might feel sad during periods of your life. But that's going to be changing constantly. It needs to change. It needs to be transformed. The problem is when that's not happening. And that's when there's emotional and physical illnesses and problems. But the 5 basic emotions are there to fulfill their function and to be dynamic. For example, if you are in a relationship or you're with your boss and there is something that has bothered you and made you feel bad, you have to talk about it and communicate it in an assertive way. You have to change something now. You have to ask for a change. Anger is made to change with some level of speed. If I'm angry, it's because if you are angry, it's because you want to change something. Emotion is movement. It is change. The famous and phenomenal psychoanalyst Carl Jung already said that to transform something, you have to recognize it, verbalize it, and express it in order to transform it with action. So, at this point, how do we express anger? How do we express anger? Well, of course, you don't need to do this with a violent communication and screaming and shouting because that's not something very adaptive. We are all clear, it's very clear that it needs to be communicated. But I'm going to tell you a practical example. After I tell you a couple of keys, 2 keys about how do I express anger. The first thing is that you make it understood. So that you express it, but you express it in a constructive way, in a proactive way, in order to negotiate and to find a middle point, not to impose. That's really, really important. And then the second key is that you need to find the right moment. Not everything can be discussed and expressed at any time. This is really important. Sometimes you need to find the right space, the right time to express whatever you need to express. Real life. Imagine that you are with your classic. Imagine you're with your partner, and then you said to your partner, "Listen, honey, I'm really pissed off because you are not helping me with anything. Look, you're not putting the rubbish outside, and you are not doing this. Is seriously, you are a freaking disaster, and you are not even worrying about the relationship. You don't. It seems that you don't value me at all." And imagine you say this: "Listen, honey, I feel quite frustrated, and I feel a bit annoyed because, look at the rubbish. I mean, and it's been the last 3 times. It's been me putting the rubbish out. So, and the kitchen is a little bit dirty. I mean, do you think that we could maybe find a middle point and you can help me out, please? Because this is really important for our relationship, and we both want to have a good relationship. But this is really annoying me. Please, next time, pay more attention and help me out." Well, I don't know you, but I do really prefer that they speak me like the second time. Why? Because it has to be communicated without exploding, because it is not effective communication otherwise. Imagine someone yelling at you. It's very easy for you to get defensive and to try to avoid that person, and the communication channel is closed. You have to try to communicate calmly, even despite being angry. And to enter in that state, there are different techniques with which you can achieve by changing your physiology: breathing, physical exercise, yoga, distractions, and there are even those who recommend having sex. But there are strategies to reduce the aggressiveness level of our anger communication, but not to suppress the anger. That's really important. And that doesn't mean that you express something that is annoying you with a smile in your face and happily, because that's quite deceitful. I mean, that's not authentic. It's like, no, you might express your anger. Maybe your facial expression is an angry face. But if you do it with the voice not being very aggressive, you select the right words, you express yourself in an assertive way, that's fine. Because the other thing is not good neither whatsoever. It's like, okay, how are you going to express that you're angry? "Hi, honey, can you help me?" Nah, come on. If you're angry, you are angry. You need to communicate it, but in a respectful way. So, there is a little recommendation. Next time that you're feeling angry, ask yourself these 3 questions. First thing, if what you have felt as a threat, is it that serious? Is this event really that transcendent? Is that really important? This thing that is annoying me? Second question. Is the anger justified? Is it worth? Does this lead to that transformation? This is really important. This is the tricky thing, because is the anger justified? Your ego is going to tell you, yes, it's justified, it's worthy. But that's when you need to try to be objective. You need to try to see the things with perspective, as if you could see this from the scenario of a movie, and you see that like in third person. It's not you. Imagine I'm gonna give you a trick. Whenever this is happening to you, think about a friend. Whatever is happening to you, think about okay, I'm imagining that what is happening to me is been happening to my friend. What could you tell to that friend? And probably you're gonna be in a more objective stage. Hopefully. But that's an idea. It takes a little bit of effort and practice, but that's a good technique to start seeing if the anger is justified, if it's worthy. The third question is that, will things get better with my anger? This is important. Now, how to manage your anger and who you are angry with, because anger is energetically very, very costly. It's expensive. Anger is expensive. So you really need to select when you're getting angry and with who, and if it's worthy, because it's really, really angry. And that's something you probably can see. Someone who's constantly angry, it's always knackered. It's always really tired. There's no energy because, of course, if you're angry and if you repress the anger even more, it's very likely that if you if you are chronically angry, it's because you are not expressing it, and that's draining your energy. So it's very costly. It's very expensive. So you better select when and with who you get angry. The main message is that you need to turn into a creative force, this emotion, that you use that emotion to get down to work. And once that anger passes, it's okay. It's the first pass. Do not make it destructive to move to the next phase. Ask yourself, what can I do? What can I do so it doesn't happen again? What is under my control that I can do? What did I learn? What's the main message? How can I act differently next time? And that will give you wisdom. That will give you knowledge. Amazing. This has been 20 minutes. If you are here, I really appreciate it. I really value you been listening this episode. My name is David El Corbarrutia. I hope that you enjoyed. And please, if you found this episode informative, useful, and positive, please share it, share far and wide. Or just send this episode to a friend. Just go to the WhatsApp or just send it to a friend and say, look, I was listening to this podcast. Yes, I like it. It's very informative. Speaking about anger. Just listen it. And help me out. You're going to help me out to expand the message and the information. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next episode. This is David El Corbarrutia from Body Emotion.